Hey there YouTube, hope you're doing well, and I've been playing a lot of 2v8 over the course of the past few days. I've been playing both Survivor and Killer thanks to the Play While You Wait feature, being able to play just a few rounds of Survivor and then jump into a round of Killer with no downtime, no queue time really, just being able to play some rounds and then get into a Killer match, play some more Survivor rounds, get into a Killer match. What's weird about this version of 2v8 though is that they were clearly intending for Clown and Chucky to come into the mode with this iteration. They even added outfits for the characters in the store. There was apparently some code that was also showing that they were supposed to be here. Clown I can kind of understand because people really don't like this guy right now because of the recent buffs that they gave him. But for Chucky, I don't really know why they didn't add him. Maybe it's just because they didn't want to add one killer and that was it. Or maybe they decided to push it back with the license as well. I'm not entirely sure. But what I wanted to talk about today is improving the experience in terms of variety and in terms of just making the experience more enjoyable across the board. But mainly giving Survivor a bit more options in terms of playstyles and gameplay while also giving them more of an opportunity to do things that don't exist in normal 1v4 Dead by Daylight. 2v8 Killer obviously has a teammate. That's a very different dynamic than you're used to, so it has its own flair that you don't normally get in normal 1v4 Killer, so it has its own staple of wanting to play it there, which is why the queues are always so long. Everyone's always queuing non-stop for Killer because it's just so fun to have another teammate to play with. With Survivor, while you do have a lot more teammates and there's a lot more shenanigans going on, it feels more casual. It's still typical Survivor gameplay. There's not too much that changes. There's some unique abilities that are really cool, like being able to rebuild pallets, being able to do an AoE heal blast, but overall, nothing really changes, and even the few classes that do exist, two of them are things that you can already do in normal 1v4 DBD. Guide now allows you to do a blast mine and a wiretap, as well as have a little bit of built-in wake up. And Escapist is just a bunch of normal 1v4 perks kind of smashed into one class. You've got self-care and botany. You've got sprint burst and vigil because it's half the time to sprint burst. It's on demand now, but that doesn't really have the same ring to it as you can play as two killers on the same team. And don't get me wrong, I actually enjoy Survivor 2v8. I find it to be very fun. I find it to be casual, a lot less stress, and a lot less importance is put on my role, so I can just kind of chill, get into a bunch of chases, enjoy myself, have things go faster, use my abilities, and it's all fun and games. But what I do find to be a problem is where it gets a little stale in terms of the playstyles. Used to, it was the same maps, but that's kind of resolved now. There's a lot more maps in the pool, and I'm assuming more are going to be getting added. Overall, there could be more killer options, but that's also a given. So those aren't really things I need to talk about. What I need to talk about is something that they haven't improved upon, and that's the class system. For some reason, they have not really done much with the class system at all, and what they have done is kind of revert some things and not actually add anything new. Not only do I think there should definitely be a lot more classes in order to try and cover as many playstyles of Survivor and Killer as possible, but I also think that there should be more unique depth to adding abilities in 2v8 that 1v4 just doesn't have, in order to try and entice people to want to play 2v8 more. First of all, I definitely think there needs to be more classes in general. Having only 4 classes, a few of which kind of share similar results, isn't really enough in order to cover the wide span of different builds and ideas that you can have. I find it kind of nuts how far in iterations we are in 2v8 and we don't have a chest class or a boon class in order to make use of totems. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm amazed that there's no hex class that a killer can bring and kind of balance that out so totems have a use in 2v8, because right now they're really nothing except for maybe free points, and that's about it. You've also got other ideas like a deception class where you can have things like the actual perk deception, have Pebble, have Red Herring, and have an entire kit dedicated to messing with the killer and making them think that there are survivors in places that there simply aren't. Have an aggressor class that maybe spawns with a flashlight. Maybe you have head on built in. Maybe you have last stand built in order to be able to vault into the killer and get stuns. Maybe a form of background player. Overall, being an aggressive player trying to get up in the killer's faces. Maybe even a specific mechanic for if the two killers are near each other and both trying to chase you, you have some sort of an ability to get yourself out of that situation, because that is a situation a lot of people complain about. At the end of the day, it's 2v8, you can't get rid of it, but maybe you could have a class dedicated to dealing with the killers yourself. But regardless of the ideas I have for these, we need more variety in terms of classes, especially for Survivor. There's a lot of different playstyles for Killer, and usually you cover that by playing different killers. Having different classes for them, I think there are a few more options available available, like the Hex class, for example. But overall, Killer kind of has that sorted based on what you can play as and who you can pair with other killers. Survivor, on the other hand, is entirely dependent on the actual class you pick for what playstyle you're going for. And only having 4 options, especially this late into the iterations of 2v8, is insane to me. The fact that there is no Loot Goblin class, or a Boon class, or a Magic class, if you want to go that route. I just feel like it's a little silly that we don't have more options at this point. And on top of that, I would like to add, I do think some classes should start with items as well. The Aggressor class should start with a flashlight that I'm talking about. Medic should spawn with a brown med kit. The Guide should start with a brown toolbox, etc., etc. I feel like maybe the Scout could start with a map. The Chest Goblin could start with a key. You get where I'm going, but certain classes should start with certain items in order to benefit them in the way that they play. And to top this off, I think some, if not all, classes should have unique abilities that can only be used in 2v8 and not in 1v4. A great example of this is the Scout class being able to rebuild pallets over time. That is something that you can't do in 1v4, and I don't think would work very well in 1v4. But in 2v8, it's fair game. It's really cool to be able to do that and restock the pallet economy, and overall, it's something you can do in 2v8 that feels good to do that you can't do in 1v4 to entice people to play it. Medic is also kind of a good example. You can heal people in 1v4, obviously, and pretty fast too, but not quite like that in an AoE effect, instantly half of a health bar over time. I think the ultimates are really cool, and I think they should add more onto it. An idea I have consistently had over the course of the past few days, it would be probably wildly imbalanced in one way or another, but a Necromancy class that has only 1 or 2 slots available, being able to bring someone back from the dead as your ultimate ability with a very long cooldown, that would be absolutely insane to see, and something that people would actually play Survivor in order to try and figure out. Would it be crazy? Yes, but it's 2v8. It's meant to be casual, and it's meant to be all sorts of chaos and goofiness. So I think it really would add to it in order to add crazy abilities like that. With the chest class, maybe you could have it to where you could control the chest with a remote from a distance and be able to explode them at a time and maybe stun the killer for a few seconds using them. The weird things like that. I'm not saying the things I'm listing are great ideas. Please don't yell at me in the comments that that would be incredibly unbalanced and the worst thing ever added to the game and would kill 2v8. I understand. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. But I just want you to understand the ideas of where I'm coming from, of adding unique abilities to 2v8, things that are out of the world and out of the question for 1v4 that could be unique and interesting in 2v8 for Survivor. At the end of the day, Killer has the ability to play with a friend and be able to tag team survivors and get downs quickly that way, and overall have dynamics that don't exist in normal 1v4 that you'll never be able to get in 1v4. But for Survivor, it's a lot of the same gameplay. So on top of adding more variety for the playstyles that already exist in 1v4, you have to add unique dynamics to make Survivor in 2v8 a more unique and interesting experience. That, to me, is the biggest problem with 2v8 right now, and the reason that not many people like playing as Survivor in 2v8 is just overall, it does get stale at a certain point when you only have 4 different playstyles to choose from, and you don't really get very many unique abilities on top of that. For me, I mainly play Scout. It simply has the most unique ability in 2v8 that you can't really do in 1v4. So that's the one that I stick with the most, and I feel like if you had more things like that, it would add a lot more to the Survivor experience. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know any other additions or quality of life changes you think would help 2v8 and overall make it more interesting as Survivor to play, help the queue times a little bit, and overall just make it a more fun experience for everyone, possibly even entertaining the idea of it being permanent in the future. That's how I feel about the current state of 2v8 right now. I would love for it to be permanent. I feel like the queue times get hurt a little bit too much right now, but if they added more unique experiences to the Survivor gameplay in 2v8 with different class variety and unique abilities that differ from the standard gameplay in 1v4, I think it would improve the mode drastically and help the queue times drastically as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I've been loving 2v8, so I wanted to make a quick video yapping about it. And like I said, if you have any ideas for how to improve the mode, improve queue times, and overall give it a good quality of life facelift, let me know in the comments below. I'll probably even reply to a few and maybe have a good discussion going there. Please be nice, though. That would be lovely. Thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.